You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday, which we sometimes refer to as Boomer's least favorite day of the week. But it's true.
It is.
You told me that. I can't forget it.
But isn't that Thursday?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait.
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah, I thought Tuesday was your least favorite day of the week.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Oh.
I'll take both of them, but mainly Thursday. Tuesday's just the precursor.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's Tuesday. I usually don't mind Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we've established nothing. Okay. All right, but hey, it's Camel Eve.
It is Camel Eve.
It's Camel Eve. So we'll just keep moving forward. Coming up on, by the way, the long weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, and I suspect that at some point here late in the week, we're going to be focusing on veterans and what it means to remember. But for right now, let me just tell you, man, we got a great show laid on for you today. 3:30 today, State Representative Susan DuBose is going to be calling in. Representative DuBose, you may recall, is the one who has the bill called the What is a Woman Act. Well, it's a heck of a thing to even have a bill titled that, right? But she's got a bill that is making its way through the legislative processes in the state legislature right now. And that bill, the What is a Woman Act, is designed to codify in state law what a woman is and to define the safe spaces that a woman is allowed to be in without expecting a man to suddenly walk in and get naked right in front of her or compete in her sports or whatever else. So, yeah, the What is a Woman Act, State Representative Susan DuBose, 3:30 p.m. Stay tuned for that one. And then there's listen, I got a triple dipper here that's going to blow your socks off. Hit it, buddy.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you have got to know as we run today's show. Number 1, race baiters and charlatans. What? Yes. Race baiters and charlatans. I mean, they are out there right now. I got stories from inside Alabama and beyond. It's just amazing to me that so often we're told as conservatives, you're a racist, when the reality is the race baiters are often on the left. In fact, I would say they're largely on the left. And they mask what they're doing as good intentions as it's another form of racism. So yeah, we're gonna talk about race baiters and charlatans, number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, here's a long title for you. You ready? Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. What? Yes. They're all wrapped together right now. They're all intertwined. If you're wondering what's going on with Space Command, we'll talk about it. If you're wondering whether abortion law has something to do with it, we'll talk about that too. If you're wondering whether or not it really makes a difference in our national defense, if all the generals get their promotion real quick, we'll talk about that. And then we'll also talk about how most of this boils down to politics. That's what it is. But yeah, we're gonna give you the big picture. What does it all mean? Why are they all out there? And how does the fabric of the whole Space Command issue come together with Space Command, abortion, generals, and politics? Number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, I'm just calling this one, Who's the Extremist Now? Because the things that are happening, with regards to our kids, with regards to the transgender movement, with regards to any number of liberal progressive things that are happening around our state, around our nation, you have to look at it and go, okay, you say you're seeking out extremism. Well, who's the extremist now? We'll talk about it in more detail. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me move to my opening comments here for the day. And I got to ask you, first of all, I will say this. What I'm about to go into, my comments, is tied up right now in a story that is breaking on the news as I'm staring at the screens. We just had the news that it's widely expected that tomorrow afternoon, Ron DeSantis will officially announce his run for the president. And the reports are he's going to announce it on Twitter with Elon Musk. That could be very interesting. But have you listened to the voices of the left lately? I mean, I know it's hard sometimes, but we have to listen sometimes, if for no other reason than to know the lies they tell so we can counter them, right? But what's become apparent is that they are in full panic mode. I mean, the party on the left that preaches diversity, equity, and inclusion, well, they feel trapped right now because they have no choices. The only choice they have is a stodgy old white octogenarian standing at the top of their ticket. Not a lot of diversity going on there. Think about it. How many times have we been preached to in recent years, called racist for opposing liberals' beliefs, told that the party line of the old rich white guys is the Republican Party of all things? Have they looked at the current crop of declared presidential candidates for the Republican Party? I mean, it has to be the most wonderfully diverse group of folks ever to take a debate stage together. It's awesome. Think about it. Former President Donald Trump, a billionaire business tycoon, a real estate developer, a white guy. Nikki Haley, a woman of partial Indian descent, a former governor of South Carolina. Vivek Ramaswamy, a first-generation American of Indian descent who was a CEO of several major corporations. Tim Scott, a black man, and a longtime conservative U.S. senator and an evangelical Christian. Larry Elder, a black man and a conservative pundit who hosts a radio show in liberal California. Asa Hutchinson, a white man and a former governor of Arkansas. And it's also firmly believed that Vice President Mike Pence, who is also a governor and a congressman, and current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who I just talked about, who served in Congress as a member of the Freedom Caucus of all things, as well as having a career in the Navy, that both of them will also likely enter the race. So set aside how you feel about any one of those candidates. Just step back and take a look at them as a field of candidates, a group, a whole slate. What an amazingly qualified and highly diverse group of leaders. There is not a one of them who hasn't earned their stripes in the arena or led a business or a major executive branch of government. And oh, by the way, that ticket I just cited has male, female, various ethnicities, first-generation Americans, old and young. So who's the party with the most diversity now? Well, in the truest sense, you'd have to say the Republican Party wins that discussion hands down. But to be honest, I don't believe this is a new thing. I mean, that may be the 2024 slate of presidential candidates, but I also believe that what I just described is the way of conservatism. To be more open, to be more direct, to be filled up with folks who are willing defenders of truth and not afraid to face their enemies. So I've got a book on my shelf about the conservative movement. It's really a primer in a sense. It's a primer in how to get it done, how to move the cause forward. It's an education of a sense, and it comes straight from the mouths of some of the great thinkers and politicos who have spent time in the trenches. The book is designed to not just show how the voices of conservative hung in there, but also how they got their message out, how to showcase the fact that the conservative movement, though, is not all a stovepiped, monolithic group of elitists from one select background. Not at all. The book is called Big Tent. The author of the book is Mallory Factor, who was a professor at the Citadel. Every chapter is a different personalized essay in the words of great minds like William F. Buckley and Barry Goldwater, with topics like the Reagan Revolution and modern conservative principles. The book highlights the way that conservatives, with all their diversity, true diversity, have stood for four major principles over the years: liberty, tradition and order, rule of law, and belief in God. Hear them again, four major principles that conservatives have stood for years. Number one, liberty. Number two, tradition and order. Number three, the rule of law. And number four, belief in God. Knowing that those are the pillars of conservatism, is it any wonder that we attract such a broad swath of society to the fold? We do indeed have a big tent. It is filled with folks who believe staunchly, who stand bravely, who fight resolutely, and who speak directly to preserve those basic liberties that we all enjoy as Americans. Things like freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of assembly, among others. Conservatism attracts folks from all backgrounds because it seeks in part to preserve the traditions and the values and the good order of society that has made this country such a force on the world stage. We didn't get here as a nation because we abandoned who we are as a people. Quite the contrary, we got here because we honored our legacy and preserved our values. We have a diverse group of folks in the conservative movement who believe that the rule of law is meaningful, that crime is crime and due to be punished, that a legally binding arrangement should be enforceable, that speech and protest are important but not to be conflated with riots. And the conservative movement honors God, in part because of the honoring of religious liberties, but also because a large tract of the members of the conservative cause believe and trust and walk in that belief that there is a God and he is sovereign and that we know that we are not him. It's certainly true that in the conservative movement, we have some groupings, some clubs and associations, some factions, if you will, that can bring their own flavor to the conservative smorgasbord. I mean, the book Big Tent points out that we have paleocons, neocons, evangelicals, traditionalists, libertarians, foreign policy hawks and isolationists, academics and activists, supply-siders and gold standardists, the Tea Party, and of course the MAGA, the ultra-MAGA, and I would add the right-side ruffians. But in the end, we remain far more diverse with a far bigger tent, but yet based upon a compass that in the end gives us true north as opposed to the fickle winds of society that set up the progressive left to find a way to accommodate every new norm, fad, and fashion statement in an effort that they can be all things to all people without doing any more but to tear down that which has always worked. Conservatives believe that truth matters, that there's no middle road for truth. Truth just is. Truth remains. The progressive left would have you to believe there is no truth, that what you make of it is truth. And therefore, in essence, their perverse view of what diversity means leads them to the point that they try to stand for everything, but in the end, they stand for nothing. You see, we do have a big tent as conservatives. Diversity really is what conservatives have always been about. Everyone is welcome does not always mean, though, that anything goes. Not in our big tent. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, there you have it. Yeah, I'm serious. The interesting thing is, while we have factions and styles and personalities and things that might differ, I think the conservative movement, by and large, has been based upon a principle and an unwavering essence of developing and defending truth. Whereas on the liberal side, they have nothing to stand on because they stand for everything, which makes them pretty much prone to blowing over in the wind. Well, that being said, we have the best slate of candidates I think I have ever seen for president next year. I'm encouraged. Any one of them will be good. I can't wait to see how this goes. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Well, we got so much content for today's show. I'm thinking, I mean, even the titles of the dippers are longer than usual. So
I did tell you that earlier. I was
did.
like, the titles are really long, so I couldn't memorize
I
them.
know. It's going to be fun when you put them up for the podcast. Yeah. It's like, oh, hey, this is the whole. Anyway, yeah. But that's just a clear indication of the fact that we got a lot to talk about. Text lines are open, by the way, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You want to text it in, you want to call it in. Same number, 833-68-RIGHT. And by the way, if you text in for the very first time, remember to text the word Rightside. And when you do, you'll get an automated message back that says something like, hey, you Rightside ruffian, thanks for joining in, and tell us your first name, where you're from. And then we'll plug you in the system with the scads, with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are now in our system, which is crazy to me, by the way, but crazy cool. Anyway, Tony from Piedmont just texted in, Bravo Zulu, he says on the opening statement. I appreciate you, man. The breaking news right now, which is a great segue from my monologue there where I talk about the big tent and what conservatives believe and what we stand for. But at the same time, look at the people. I mean, look at the actual people that are at our ticket. And I know that Republican and conservative don't always go hand in hand. I get it. There are Republicans who are not conservative, and there are some of those Republicans who are in that slate that aren't super conservative, Asa Hutchinson being one. Although Asa Hutchinson, he made his bones, man. The guy was not known for being more than a moderate, but he also, I think he presided over the Bill Clinton impeachment trial. Anyway, all that to say, tomorrow we are looking at Ron DeSantis getting in. He will be an immediate top-tier candidate. This just from the moment he comes out, he will be. I mean, he's already polling at the number 2 spot behind Trump, even without being a candidate. So, I mean, there has yet to be a major poll done about the presidential race that did not include his name because everybody expected him to get in. So he's been real cagey, but he's been out there making the rounds. Got a book that was published recently. It's obvious that Trump is after him because the Trump PACs have already been running negative campaign ads against DeSantis, even though he's not a candidate until tomorrow, it looks like. So what we're seeing right now is Fox News is one of many reporting that tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Alabama, that on Twitter, during a conversation with Elon Musk, that he will announce his candidacy. So I find it very interesting. What does it mean? What does it mean that Elon Musk, weigh in if you want to, Boom. What does it mean that Elon Musk is actually going to be in the scenario with him?
I don't know. I'm really interested. I think part of it, I think we were discussing it a little bit earlier, is that, Elon Musk, Twitter, the biggest now free speech area in the world.
Yeah.
But again, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, and then he has all this now publicity where he can just, if he's like meshed up with, Elon Musk, everybody that likes Elon Musk is now going to like DeSantis.
That's very likely. And we'll also see, plus, if you get down to it, think about this. I just thought of this while you were talking. Not that I wasn't listening, but I was but I was trying to think and listen at the same time. Trump is a billionaire who owns his own social media platform. Elon Musk, multi-billionaire, owns his own social media platform, which is in direct competition with, and truthfully, here's the other thing too. The question has always been, will Trump get back on Twitter? Because, he was banned for a while.
Right.
Will he get back on Twitter? Well, now will he want to, since Twitter is where the hosting of the DeSantis announcement took place?
Oh.
I don't
know.
I don't know, man.
It's going to be interesting.
The mind runs amok when you think of all this stuff. But don't tell me it isn't planned. This is well orchestrated. This is a thing. And so we'll see how it plays out.
So is this like the start of all the campaigns? Is this like after you announce they can start campaigning? Is that correct?
They can't. There's certain things they cannot do.
Okay.
Like, for instance, even right down to, as the governor of the state of Florida, he cannot do campaign business on state property. So he has to and I know for a fact there was a place in Montgomery that was like a private office that Governor Ivey used to go and meet with her campaign team because she couldn't do it on the Capitol grounds, and rightfully so. And it gets hard. Like Trump, when he was president, he still flew around in Air Force One, right?
Right.
I mean, you got to. But to some degree, you got to keep a bright line. So yeah, there's going to be things that start happening now that couldn't happen before, and that didn't have to happen before. And then fundraising takes on a whole new deal. And then people start, calling him for interviews, but he has to separate his time from his governance time. Some of the other candidates like Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott's going to face this. He's a senator, so he's going to face this. He can't do anything in his Senate offices related to his campaign.
Got it.
But Vivek Ramaswamy, he's a private guy. He can do whatever he wants, wherever he wants. So it's it's that fine dance they got to do.
Got it.
It's going to be interesting. Tomorrow, we're looking at an announcement from Ron DeSantis. And, brother, it's going to be game on at that point. But what a field. What a slate. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. That would be Alabama. I'm talking about we send our signal way on down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back over to Gadsden, parts of Georgia and Tennessee and even Mississippi, thrown in just for good measure. So, yeah, I'm looking at the text line, got several things here. John from Huntsville says, Phil, as long as a Republican wins the 2024 presidential race, I don't care which candidate wins, but I think the Democrats are preparing to cheat. Well, that would fit. So, anyway, I get it, man. Lori from Jackson says, I don't trust DeSantis. He seems to be surrounding himself with rhinos. Which one? And I'm not arguing the point. I'm just asking, which one's the rhino? Who are you saying? Lori from Jackson, qualify that with a name. Tell me who the rhino is. David from Huntsville. I was unsure whether DeSantis should start his campaign talking to Elon Musk, but it's probably a smart primary move. Go DeSantis. That's David from Huntsville. Gina from Athens. Someone please tell Donald Trump that attacking DeSantis is very distasteful. I hate that people who say they are a party of the party attack each other. Trump was never my first pick. I did vote for him because he was a Republican at the time, but just stop, in all caps. I did like the things Trump did for America, but just stop already. That's Gina from Athens. I suspect that we're going to hear a lot of this over the next year, Boom. It's
going to be back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
And, all over. I agree we shouldn't tear down our own party.
Yeah.
But, also I understand they're trying to get that nomination. So.
Well, I hate it.
Yeah.
But there's this old saying that negative works. And it's just ridiculous. But I think at some point, too, negative blows back on you. You can take it too far. You can make it unnecessary, and you can wind up getting yourself in trouble. But all right, number one, triple dipper, race baiters and charlatans. I don't know which one to start with. I got so much stuff here. I'll tell you what, let me start with this. Let me go down to the second story in my stack. So you may recall this, that just last week, President Biden gave an address, a commencement address at Howard University, a historically black university. So Biden went and gave this speech, and the whole premise of this dipper, race baiters and charlatans, is just to segue directly off of my opening monologue. The fact that I believe that conservatives and the Republican Party are more diverse than, first of all, we ever get credit for, but secondly, that we are far more diverse and accepting without sacrificing principles than the progressive left. The progressive left, when they don't have a response, when they don't know what else to do, they scream racism. And the race baiters come out in form. I'm just saying. And there's an old saying, as an attorney, I can just tell you, there's an old saying, I remember one of my law school professors saying it to us. He said, when the facts are in your favor, argue the facts. And when the law is in your favor, argue the law. And if nothing's in your favor, just bang your hand on the podium and do the best you can. And that's the case. When you see them beginning to yell racism, it's because they don't know what else to do because they're not winning the argument. And so what they've got to do is they got to tear something down by instilling fear. And right now, one of their favorite fear ploys remains the specter of racism. Now, before some of y'all in the more liberal side of the ruffian audience take issue, understand that I'm not saying at all that racism doesn't exist. I'm not. It's real. I know it's out there. Is it systemic in America? No. Do we have laws in place that protect people from racism? Yes. Can I mandate every single thought or action of an individual? No. But do we have everything it takes in a society for someone to succeed, to achieve, to thrive, if you will? Right here, even in Alabama, despite their skin color? And the answer is yes. If you try to portray to me that race will always keep you down, then I'm going to call you a liar. That's an excuse. Because the examples of why it's not the case are out there. And guess what? If you're ignoring them, it just means you already have a narrative built in your mind and you don't want to deal with it. Some of the more famous examples, let's take a look. Condoleezza Rice, if you're not familiar, she was born in Jim Crow, Alabama. She was. Condoleezza Rice was born in Jim Crow, Alabama. She served as the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor for the President of the United States, and she is now the president of a major university. How about let's take a look. What's another? Tim Scott. Tim Scott's running for U.S. president right now. He's a U.S. senator from South Carolina. That's a southern state. And he'll tell you for a fact that, in his own words, he defies, his own personal story defies the left narrative. How about Justice Clarence Thomas? He grew up in a segregated South, very poor, had nothing. He is now a justice of the U.S. Supreme Court with an incredible legal pedigree. And he's a man of great letters. And I'll just tell you, at every turn, you can find the narrative being busted. But what do? They still scream racism. And what did the president do last week? He went to Howard University. And instead of being the president who could rally people, instead of being the guy who could stand up there and say, you too can make a difference, he stood up there and he said, you too need to understand that you have to live in fear. That's what he did. He postured it as bringing hope. I even saw some like Axios or something saying his speech was designed to instill hope. No, it wasn't. His speech was designed to pander. And he got up there and he told a crowd of young black intellectuals, he said, stand up against the poison. White supremacy is the single most dangerous terrorist threat in our homeland. That's the president of the United freaking States, who is telling graduates from college, oh man, we're a racist nation and you got to stand up to it. And then he went on to say, I'm not just saying this because I'm at a black HBCU, historically black college university. I say this wherever I go. Sure you do. Sure you do. Biden said that the U.S. is still embroiled in this long battle against racism, but said that the graduating class of 2023 would carry out the work to redeem the soul of this nation. Do you remember back when Michelle Obama said she was finally proud of this nation for the first time in her life? Remember that? As if there is nothing good about who we are as a people. You just heard the President of the United States stand up and tell a group of young black men and women that they live in a country that they need to try to redeem. Really? So let me get this straight. You're the guy who's going to represent our nation to the rest of the world when you go to the G7 summit and NATO alliances and everything. You're the guy? Your stance on who we are as a people is to be a race baiter? Well, it comes from the top down, y'all. And you know, I'll say this. A guy named John Miltimore, who works for the Foundation for Economic Education, he said, the Democratic Party spent most of the 19th century and much of the 20th using overt racism to win their elections. They're doing it again in the 21st century. Their racism just looks a lot different than the 19th century version. Yeah, so you don't have people in chains anymore, but you do have people that you're trying to enslave with the oppressed sense that we are a racist nation that still needs to be redeemed. I got news. We have been blessed, and we have done everything it takes. You find me a law on the books that allows racism. I can't change someone's mindset. I can't change their perceptions or their prejudices. I can work against it, but I can tell you this, as a former legislator myself, I will do what it takes to pass laws that prevent it and that enforce not having it and that give people equal playing fields, not equity, equality of opportunity. Well, then there was this article on AL.com. Oh, Lord, you went to AL.com. Yes, I did. So AL.com every once in a while has some real reporting, but they have a lot of race baiting too. AL.com headline came out last Friday, I think it was. Pushed out of school, Alabama's culture of removal takes a toll on black students. Okay. Oh, you can't see what I'm rubbing my face right now. So this article, and you can see I'm holding it up to the camera now. It's all highlighted and marked up and got notes written on it. This article is designed to read like it's a report, like they're giving you the news. Hey, just the facts here, just the facts. But in fact, it's an opinion. It starts out to prove a premise. In other words, they gathered up what they needed to prove an already established in their mind premise. The premise is that Alabama schools are racist. Huh. No, they're not. Are there schools where there's behavioral problems? Sure. Are there neighborhoods where they have less advantage than others? Yes. Are there places in Alabama where the schools are better off than the schools in other parts of Alabama? Yeah, and that's just life, man. And maybe if we had some school choice, people could move. How about that? But then you look at it and go, okay, but if your premise is that school discipline is harder on black kids, all right, I got to say, you've got an agenda. Now, on this show, this is an opinion show, all right? When you tune in, you're going to hear solid conservative and just plain right, which we know is our way of saying this is a conservative show. You're tuning in for the conservative viewpoint. You're tuning in to get the basically the verbiage to the things that you already know you feel, and sometimes you've already got your own verbiage and you hear mine and you collaborate, and I get all kinds of input from you guys on text and everything else. This is a collaborative opinion piece, and I make no bones about it. When I see an article like this from AL.com that does not have the words opinion attached to it, then I know that we've got somebody with an agenda who's trying to pretend they're a reporter. All right, so here's the story. It says after some of his friends smelled like weed during the first semester of his senior year at Paul Bear Bryant High School in Tuscaloosa, CJ, last name removed, his hopes disappeared. It was all taken away from me for no reason, taken away from me like it was a joke, CJ said. He was never charged with a crime. It says that, because he was never charged with a crime. He was held in in-school suspension, disqualified from playing baseball, and eventually sentenced to alternative school, paying a steep price for proclaiming his own innocence. In Alabama, it states, black students are nearly twice as likely to face every type of classroom removal as compared to their white peers. I am calling bunk on that. Now, do they have stats? Well, of course they do. Let me talk about those stats for a minute. Bunch of race baiters. It says during the 2018-2019 school year, Alabama students spent 203,000 days in alternative school. And although black students only make up 32% of the population in 2019, they served almost 60% of those alternative school days. Okay. White students, who make up about 55% of the population, served only 33% of the days. Okay, and that's how you base things. When we come back from this break, I'm going to take that down a road. And I got to ask you, ponder this while we go to break. Are they taking into account the demographic makeup of various regions of the state? The answer is no. They're looking for a cumulative. But if you have a disciplinary problem in one school, and that one school happens to be predominantly white, then you're going to say that more white kids are being disciplined in that school than black kids. If you have a school that's predominantly black because of what its zip code is, then you're going to wind up having more kids disciplined that are black. And if you look around, you have to break it down on a case by case. You can't blanket like this. Think it through. We'll talk right back when we get on the air again in a moment. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Be right back. And we're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, where common sense is a superpower. So I was talking about number one of the triple dipper, race baiters and charlatans. And I've got more. We're going to go down the road here a little bit, take it to the top of the hour, I'm sure. But listen, right here in Alabama, like for instance, this story that I'm talking about with AL.com. Story, that's a thick one, isn't it? You can tell, like I've got a whole book in my hand. I mean, how many pages does it take to write something where it says, it's mean to have discipline in schools because it hurts black children? What an insult. What an insult that is. I mean, the very idea, stop insulting black people by telling them that they're more prone to be harmed because people enforce the rules. That's just crap. And I look at it and go, okay, so right now the premise of this article is in Alabama, black students are nearly twice as likely to face every type of classroom removal as compared to their white peers, which is such a sorry way of handling the facts. When you broad brush them like that, it can look bad. But when you break it down, you begin to realize, oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. If you go community by community, then you begin to see the demographics play in a little differently. Like if it's a predominantly white school, then, I mean, like let's say you go to, I'm just trying to pick one, I don't know, Mountain Brook, predominantly white school, you're going to wind up seeing the preponderance of the kids being disciplined, who are disciplined, being white. If you go down to, I don't know, Butler County, Greene County, and you go to a high school that is predominantly black, guess what? Then you're going to find that the majority of kids in that school that are disciplined are going to wind up being black. It's just the nature of it. But then what about this? What if you have a school where the leadership of the school is not enforcing standards or not applying things in an even manner, and it creates an undisciplined environment? Or you have gang activity, or you have something else that happens in the inner cities that you don't have in the rural areas, or vice versa. And then what you're looking at there is not only demographics, but geographics begin to play in. But the very idea that they're going to say, well, it's just stacked against them because they were born, children of color, they're going to get picked on by the teachers. Yeah, what happens is when you go to school in Alabama, well, they're going to go ahead and you got a good strong chance of you getting disciplined if you're black. No, you're not. You got a good strong chance of being disciplined if you break the rules. That's what it is. So this is a false narrative. Race baiters and charlatans is the name of this whole section. And they go on and they point out, too, in a later part of that same article, the introduction of zero-tolerance policies in the 1990s marked a punitive turn for schools, and teenagers, particularly black young men, were described as being super predators who were falsely portrayed as being predisposed to criminal activity. No, they weren't. So the very idea, zero-tolerance policies of the 1990s, I guess what you're saying here is, hey, let's relax the standards, and if you're black, we should probably lighten up and not enforce the rules against you. This is absolutely an insult to the members of the black community in Alabama. It just absolutely is. It's like saying they can't follow the rules, and so therefore we should lighten up because they're being harmed. No, they're not. The whole article was written on that kind of awful premise. But then I look at it and think, well, that's what the progressive left does, though. They try to build a systemic sense of oppression because they want you to live in fear. And I'm just going to tell you, you have every right to stand on your own 2 feet in this nation, regardless of your skin color. Take a look at the presidential candidacies that we have right now on the Republican platform alone. You've got everything. You've got all of them. You've got men, women, young, old. You've got first generation Americans. You've got people of color. You've got black men and white men and women and all of. I mean, I'm just saying. And there are several of them that came from very disadvantaged backgrounds in America. Guess what? You can be anything you want to. The question is, do you want to? And then you look at things like, oh my gosh, what did they just do at UCal Berkeley? Oh my gosh. Race baiters and charlatans. Listen, when we get back from this break, I'm going to curl your hair with what just happened this past weekend at a major university in California. how they went so far beyond the pale that you have to wonder, how does their campus even function anymore? Because they're so determined to make sure that race baiters and charlatans are given a leg up. I'll tell you all about it. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live on the Rightside Studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, stay tuned. At the bottom of the hour, we'll have a conversation with State Representative Susan Dubose, who is going to be calling from Montgomery because they're in session as we speak. But yeah, I tell you what, Boomer, you got that sound clip? So I found an audio clip as I was preparing for today's show. And I'm doing this section, I'm going to finish it up during this segment here called Race Baiters and Charlatans. And I just said a moment ago before I went to break how so much of what we're seeing is just an insult to people of color. Like they can't get by in life unless, someone finally helps them to redeem what they've had to be saddled with. No, this is a land of opportunity. There's a sound clip I want you to hear right now. It's a guy giving a speech. His name is Brandon Tatum. I don't know anything about him. I will tell you this. He's a black man. Listen to what he has to say.
White privilege. I think that's the most racist concept I've ever heard in my life. Because as a black man, you're telling me that you're better than me. That's what I hear. Because I ask anybody, wait till we go to Q&A. Somebody going to disagree with me. What benefits do you have that I don't have? They got to get racist after that. Well, I go to school. Well, you think I'm not as smart as you? Think I can't make a 4.0 GPA? You think I can't do that? You racist. That's what you are. Oh, you can't get a job like me. Oh, you think I'm not qualified like you are? You think I don't have the hustle, I don't have the grind to get a job? Are you crazy? Black people can't vote because they don't have IDs. You think I'm dumb enough not to have an ID? You're a racist. That's what they say. Well, you can't get pulled over by police. You think I don't know how to act and behave myself and conduct myself? You think I can't start a business? I own a few businesses. You think when I fill out that application to do that business, or have my attorneys build one of my businesses, my energy drink company, you think they said, well, he's black, well, we can't represent him. No, it's all bull crap, man. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. It's all designed to make us hate each other.
There you go. Wow. So well said. So well said. And it just, first of all, don't ever get put in the position where you have to apologize for being white. And oh, by the way, don't ever get in the position where you feel like you're underprivileged just because you're black. And oh, by the way, don't ever stop and think for a second that this nation is not a nation where you can succeed regardless of what the color of your skin looks like. And yet, who keeps dividing us? All right? Race baiters and charlatans. Is it the Republican Party doing that? Is it the conservative movement doing that? No. Take a look at what has happened this past weekend. Story here about UCal Berkeley. By the way, all these resources are available on the website. You can go and see them. Go grab them yourself, pull them down, email them to somebody if you want to. Just read them again. But if you go to our website, rightsideradio.org, go to the live stream tab, and on there you'll see not only the inside of the studio as we're talking on the mics, but you'll also see a button that says resources. Every article you hear me rattling on the microphone for each dipper is in there. You can pull them down yourself. This one came from News Wars. California Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters even delivered a video message to the all-black crowd at UCal Berkeley when they did a separate graduation ceremony just for African Americans. Why would they do that? And she said to them, this is definitely your time. Don't let anyone tell you any differently. We're counting on you to fix the problems we've been fighting for so long, to correct and enable this country to live up to its promise. It can and should be a land of equal opportunity because everyone will benefit when all of us live up to our potential. Blah, 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 word salad, gobbledygook. I've been in office too long, Maxine Waters. And she went on to say, equal opportunity at a segregated event. What the heck, man? Well, get this. UCal Berkeley held a black-only graduation ceremony in which they talked about reparations and everything else and had Maxine Waters give her statement. Then they also, by the way, held a lavender graduation for the LGBTQ community on campus. Then they also, by the way, held a Chicanx and Latinx graduation for Hispanic students. They also, by the way, held a Pacifica, spelled with a K. I didn't know that was out there. A Pacifica graduation for Pacific Islander students. And then they held a Pilipinix for Filipino students. I mean, what the heck? Do they not see what they've just done? They just took the campus, divided it up into little bitty pieces, and said, all y'all need to have your own moment because all y'all ain't right. I don't know where the white kids graduated. I have no idea. What did the white kids do? I don't know. I guess the white kids, they mailed them their diploma is what I'm guessing. Hit the camera and grab the microphone. You got to get on here because your reaction was priceless.
That was really good.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, what'd they do?
That's exactly what I was about to say. Were the white kids, they just probably put them at the end of the summer?
Are they allowed to graduate?
They're probably not allowed right now. But excuse me, sir. You got to go another semester.
Excuse me. Pardon me, young man. You appear to be white. We're going to have to hold your diploma.
Yeah.
What? Hold it till when? Well, we'll just have to hold it.
We're just going to have to hold it.
Yeah. Did you take my tuition? Well, yes, because you sat in our classrooms. Well, let me have my diploma. Well, but you're white. That's what I'm saying. My God. A lavender graduation.
Oh, my goodness.
They had a black graduation, a lavender graduation, a Latinx Chicanx.
That's all they're trying to do
Graduation.
is just divide.
That's all they're doing.
Divide us and turn everybody on everybody else.
Oh, my gosh. You'll also be glad to know that University of Minnesota is in high form. The public college there, public university, Minnesota, is giving out paid internships that exclude white people. That's not the way it's supposed to work. They say in this article from Base Politics, dated yesterday, segregation and open race discrimination are making a comeback, this time in progressive bastions like our higher education system, all in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The University of Minnesota just got hit with a federal civil rights complaint. Good for them, because it's openly conditioning a paid internship program on the basis of race. It says their multicultural summer research opportunities program is an intensive 10-week summer program in which undergraduate students of color work full-time with a faculty mentor on a research project. I wonder if any of those faculty are white. Hey, white professor, stand down. We're going to send you interns for the summer, but they're only going to be people of color, and that's just the way we roll. Okay. It also, by the way, helps it pays a $6,000 a month stipend. $6,000 a month? Oh no, $6,000 total. And a condition of the program is only open to students who identify as a student of color or Native American. God Almighty! But the race baiters and charlatans. I mean, well, then I think one of my favorites though in recent days. One of my favorites in recent days. Boomer, I don't know if you heard this or not, but Florida is now deemed a racist state.
Oh, really?
Did you know
Florida
that?
is?
Yeah, Florida.
Really?
Yeah, Florida. NAACP issues a travel advisory for Florida in response to DeSantis' DEI restrictions.
Oh.
So, yeah. Washington Examiner article 2 days ago. The National Association by the way, the NAACP used to do great things. And now they're a laughingstock. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People issued a travel advisory for Florida alleging increased racism against black people. No evidence of it, just that Ron DeSantis banned DEI from public universities. So somehow or another that equates to racism. The advisory was issued on the board of directors' decision citing Governor Ron DeSantis' Republican of Florida move to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in education. The travel advisory from the NAACP claims that his so-called leadership, that's what they call it, his so-called leadership has made the state hostile to all non-white and LGBTQ people.
Oh, I'm sure it's so hostile down there.
Yeah. Here's her statement, quote, Florida is openly hostile towards African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ plus individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and communities of color. On a seeming quest to silence African American voices, the governor and the state of Florida have shown that African Americans are not welcome in the state of Florida. By the way, next article, Fox News, NAACP director, guess where he lives? Tampa, Florida.
Well, that's just ironic, isn't it? That's funny.
Come on. NAACP board members.
You can't make that up.
I can't make it up. Race baiters and charlatans, man. NAACP Board of Directors Chairman Leon Russell pushed back against criticism for his organization's travel advisory for black people in the state of Florida while he himself lives in the Tampa Bay area. And he called it just BS that they would call him out on it. Oh, my gosh. But then, I'll be honest with you, we now have Tim Scott in the race for president. Tim Scott, a black man who has defied the narrative that in some way the Republican Party is not a place where people of color are welcome, that conservatism and somehow is antithetical to black people being able to rise above any situations they could have been born into. He defies those narratives openly, and yet, Whoopi Goldberg on The View suggested that Scott has what she calls Clarence Thomas syndrome. What the heck does that even mean? How insulting did she just get? He has Clarence Thomas syndrome. What she just basically called him was an Uncle Tom. That's what she just did. That's what she just did. Because Thomas, if you recall, is a U.S. Supreme Court justice, a conservative man, a man of color who has been attacked by the left for years because he doesn't toe the line on what they believe should be the politics of being black. And I'm going to tell you, race baiters and charlatans like that need to stop and recognize that what they have there is a role model in Clarence Thomas, and what they have is a role model in Tim Scott. And so for Whoopi Goldberg to say that somehow or another he's got Clarence Thomas syndrome. His response, and I love this, he told Trey Gowdy, meekness is not weakness. I believe in the gospel. I believe Matthew 5:44 says, love your enemies. But if you break in my house, I also believe in the Second Amendment. All right. That's it. I'm going to wrap that one up. I'm getting mad. We'll read some of your text messages when we get back. If you want to text in your comments on anything I just said, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. So I got to. So we're going to wind up tying that whole section up with a conversation with State Representative Susan DuBose, because one of the charlatans out there in the world of liberal politics or one of the charlatans' tricks is the notion that men can be women and women can be men. And we're going to cover that with her because I want to get an update on where her legislation sits. She is currently the sponsor of what is known as the What is the Woman Act. And so we're gonna talk about that with State Representative Susan DuBose here in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll run over to the text lines. Lori from Jackson, okay, she texted in earlier that she felt like DeSantis was surrounding himself with rhinos, and I asked who are you worried about? She says Karl Rove for one. Okay, but I did go back and look, and I can't find any evidence though, Lori, that Karl Rove is working for the DeSantis campaign. I did see where Rove was saying he sees no good reason why Trump is going to be insulting and slandering DeSantis right now, because it's counterproductive, he feels like. But nonetheless, I don't think Karl Rove is actually working for DeSantis. Bob from Decatur says, do we have any knowledge of anything being put into place where the Democrats cannot cheat this election like they did the last one? This is what we all need to be concerned with going into the election. How secure will it be? I think there's been a number of states, Alabama even, Georgia certainly, a number of others that certainly tightened up their laws at the state level. Some did not, but I do believe that some of the problems have been worked out. And Bob, we just got to keep our heads on a swivel and watch. So thanks for texting. Chris from Athens, the left never let such annoying things as facts get in the way of their narrative. Great point, Chris from Athens. Andrew from Tony, Alabama, sends me Biden's cheat sheet. That's funny. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Brian from Huntsville says, ludicrous. Any man, any color should be able to reach for the stars. Like the Rush song, The Trees, we see going. Yeah, I get it, man. You're right, Brian. Anita from South Huntsville, I completely agree. The power that the accusation of racism has had is actually great proof for just how much our nation is not racist, because everyone understands how heinous racism is. Most Americans defer to such an accusation and try to be respectful when faced with it. But unfortunately, that's also a perfect formula for abuse. Wow. That was a profound text. Thank you, Anita. Appreciate it. Bev from Madison, we were a military family, so we experienced several school districts. I taught during the zero tolerance, and my kids were in school then. I did not agree with zero tolerance, and it was my experience as a teacher and a mom that male students were affected by zero tolerance much more than female students. Okay, and she says, P.S., race did not matter. All right, Bev, great point. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. And thanks for what you did. Tony from Piedmont, well, anyway, he's congratulating us on a good show. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Scott from Decatur. Phil, the discipline stats may indicate a problem with staff prosecutorial discretion. There you go. Frank from Huntsville. On the black internship in Minnesota, all the white person has to do is identify as black and they can be in. That's, you know what?
Just identify.
Boomer, that's how you and I get some of those reparations, man.
That's what it is. And
Yeah.
that's probably what all the, white people did during that graduation. They just identified as, one of the others.
They had to.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have graduated.
They identified as Lavender or Latinx or Chicanx or what was the other one? Pacifica. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, man.
Mom, Dad, they say that all the tuition money was for nothing. Son, listen, just tell them you're black. Oh, got it. I'm in.
I got it.
Got my diploma. There's a song by the Indigo Girls years ago. Love that song called "Closer to Fine." It had one line in there that said, talking about college. It said, "I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind, got my paper, and I was free." It's a good song. Good song. Rufflian, that's Rufflian. Rufflian from Huntsville says, Whoopi Goldberg's real name is Karen. Well, but I take issue with the idea that Karen is an insult, because I know some wonderful Karens. You know some wonderful Karens.
I know some wonderful Karens.
Wonderful Karens. I don't appreciate that. Mike from Somerville says Reverend Martin Luther King's probably spinning in his grave. He gave his life fighting segregation, and now minorities are self-segregating. Well, liberals are self-segregating, but I agree with you, man. Trina from Elkmont, Oh, yeah. Ben Carson, she points out, should be an inspiration to the black community and to everyone, really. I agree with that. Daryl from Huntsville, the predictable left, starting to fire up the victims. It's an election cycle. And then Richard from Madison is brand spanking new in the text line. We're glad to have you, buddy. All right, Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Coming right back with State Representative Susan DuBose. Y'all stay tuned. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. That would be Alabama. I'm talking about we send this signal, this show, way on down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, thrown in just for good measure. Well, hey, listen, we're going to go to the phones right now, taking a pause from the triple dipper of the day. We just finished up the whole section there that I called race baiters and charlatans. You may recall yesterday I had a piece that came out, published first by 1819 News, getting picked up by other papers around the state, and it focused on the fact that so often what we're seeing right now is that the laws in place around the nation, both state and federal, are already there to protect women and children. Well, really anybody, but let's focus on some like Title IX, there to ensure that there is equality of access to sports and others, for that matter, other things, for women, that they are not shunted aside in favor of men. And yet, it's okay if you're a man who says he's a woman to somehow infringe upon that law. You get special protections. Well, right now what we're seeing is around the nation, states are beginning to take a stand against these things. And right here in the state of Alabama, Representative Susan DuBose, freshman legislator representing District 45. Susan DuBose, past experience working in banking. She also was president of Republican Women of North Shelby County. She was elected to office just last fall, and she came out the gate with some pretty solid conservative bills, and we're going to talk to her about them right now. Representative DuBose, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Hey, Phil, thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for making some time. I know you got a busy week and you're in Montgomery right now, so I appreciate you stepping out and calling in. Hey, listen, you got two bills that really defend the true position, the conservative position, but the truth really within the whole gender war. That first one you had dealt with athletics in the college arena.
Yeah.
Tell us where you're at with that one and what's going on.
That's right. So that bill protects women in the collegiate age to where they only compete against biological women. It's just common sense. It's the way it's been done for decades. And as you said, Title IX started, 1973, when very few women actually played collegiate sports. There were only 15% of the population. But that bill has done wonders for women, and we're to the point now where we have 44% of the athletes at the college level are women, and these women deserve to continue to compete against other women. And if you start letting trans women, those are women that were formerly men, compete in that arena, women will lose all of the honors, they'll lose awards, they'll lose scholarship opportunities. It'll do away with all the progress that Title IX has made over the last 50 years. So Alabama, being the smart, common sense people that we are, has voted to support this bill. It's come out of the House with bipartisan support, a tremendous amount of support on both sides of the aisle. It's moved through the Senate, and we're now waiting on the governor to sign it, and I expect it to make it.
Well, that's outstanding. And, we already had that in place for K through 12, but for some reason we didn't have it for the collegiate arena. So really all you're doing is memorializing at the college level what we've already said was going to be in place at the lower levels, and just preserving that all the way through a student's, athletic career before they go pro. So
that's right.
Yeah,
and I
that's
think
great.
the hesitancy early on to pass that a couple of years ago with the K through 12 was just unclear how NCAA was going to react. But we have seen after 3 years, I think we have now 16 states that have passed this on the collegiate level. It has not resulted in any loss of NCAA tournaments. There's been no lawsuits. Yeah. This is good, solid legal law, and it has not had any problems in any other state. So Alabama has stepped up, and we're going to be one of them that know the truth.
Well, and it's not just you said common sense, which is true, but I think it also just promotes the legalities of what we've always stood for. And so
that's right.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, great job on that one. I'm glad to hear it's headed to the governor soon. So we'll watch for her to sign that, and you don't have any doubts that she will, right?
I don't have any doubts. I think that if she didn't sign this bill, it would not be a good thing.
No,
So,
I don't think so either.
yeah, I think she's a smart lady, and I have full confidence that she'll sign it.
All right. So the other bill you've got, the one that I wrote about yesterday, it's called the What is a Woman Act, and this one is going to codify within, which is amazing that we have to do this, but we're seeing encroachments on the term of woman around the nation, and this one's going to codify what a woman is, and also sort of protect the safe spaces that women should be allowed to have. Right.
That's right. It's a sister bill to the bill that I've already passed. But this just codifies the meaning and the biological definition of male, female, father, mother, these long-time definitions that we all know and agree with. It's science, of course. Your sex is either male or female at birth, and that this is just codifying that. There is an exception, an extremely rare exception, when an individual is born and you cannot determine their sex, and in that case, you would check unknown on the birth certificate. There have only been 5 of these such individuals in the last 9 years in our state. But those have been the individuals, when they do choose their sex, would be protected under this law. And, of course, we would work individually with them. But people know that sex is not fluid, and we just need to stand up for the truth.
Well, I completely agree. And I saw a quote from you in some article or something about your bill that you made the comment that if a justice of the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson, cannot declare what a woman is, that we'd probably better go ahead and make sure we embed it in our state law before the Supreme Court starts going in a liberal bent and changing things.
That's exactly right. And we also see where President Biden and the U.S. Department of Education is trying to change the meaning of sex and the meaning of woman in Title IX legislation. And we cannot let these unelected officials from the U.S. Department of Education start dictating what we do and dictating the meaning of words. It's just preposterous to think we are that close to something crazy like that happening.
Well, we're towards the end of the legislative session. I mean, you guys are on the downhill run with very few actual legislative days left to work. So you just had a public hearing. It got kind of gamey. Where's the bill right now, and is it going to come to the floor anytime soon and go to the Senate?
Well, I'm hopeful that it will. We did not get to vote on it last week in Health Committee because we had a public hearing, and we generally wait a week to vote. So tomorrow, we will be voting in the Health Committee. I expect it to pass, and then I'm going to be working with the Senate to, as quick as I can, get it moved through the Senate and to the governor's desk. I think this is too important to let just sit, and so I'm going to be pushing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you too, it's usually the discretion of the chairman of a committee. When I chaired committees in the Senate, my rule was we would always vote the same day as a public hearing to speed the process, unless the bill sponsor asked me not to.
Yeah,
and I wish they would do that.
That would have been nice.
Yeah,
I wish we had done that. That would have given me valuable days to get this moved through. But I still think it can be done. I think it'll be a priority. And it's important for the people of our state. I mean, can you imagine you have a daughter that's going to the University of Alabama, and they sign up to live in Tutwiler dorm. Don't you think your daughter and the parents want to know that their daughter will be living with another biological woman and not just somebody who thinks that they're a woman at that time and place?
Yeah.
It's important. There are single-sex spaces for women that it's important to protect. So dorms, domestic violence shelters. I mean, even prisons. We hear about terrible things happening to women in prisons by trans women that have been placed with them in that section of the prison. So, we have got to protect what we know are women and protect their spaces.
Yeah.
And this is nothing against anybody that, based on their gender identity, as an adult, I mean, you're free to identify any way you want, and we should treat everyone with respect and kindness and love, and we should all live and work together and with each other and respect each other. But there are these, few spaces where single sex is still important, and I think we need to preserve those areas.
Well, and I think what liberals don't want to talk about is the fact that, and I said this, by the way, in my piece that came out yesterday about your bill, is that what they don't want to talk about is that their hero, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in the 70s wrote a piece in regards to the Equal Rights Amendment, and she flat out said, and here's the quote: "Separate places to disrobe and sleep and perform personal bodily functions are permitted, in some situations required by regard for individual privacy." She went on to say that's constitutional, and it's and so the idea that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is out there actually espousing what you're trying to do in your bill in the year 2023, that they don't want to talk about that. They want to pretend that never happened.
You're absolutely right, and I'm very familiar with that quote. And you know what? I have a lot of respect for Justice Ginsburg through her life because of what she had to battle as a female, being the first in so many areas. And, ultimately I may not have agreed with all her policies, but she still was an important mentor and model for women for decades to come. And what she said was exactly right. We cannot deny that to women. And, hey, I might need to bring that up again when I head back out in front of the Senate with this, some of these bills.
Well, in the meantime, Representative Susan DuBose, House District 45, we know you're in Montgomery right now, so good luck to you. Keep us posted on the bill, and we'll keep talking up on our end.
Yes, I will. I'm sitting here looking at the legislative floor right now. I just stepped out in this media room to talk to y'all, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Bill.
All right. Have a great day, Susan. All right. Well, there you have it. Moving through the legislative process right now. And isn't it amazing that we have to even have a bill? Boom. I mean, the very idea that we have to have a bill to say what a man and a woman is.
Oh, I know. It shouldn't even be brought up. I mean, it should be flat out, this is a man, this is a woman, this is how God created us. Boom. That's it.
We never had to question it before.
Exactly.
And wow. Okay. Well, anyway, that's where we are. So you know what? Take a stand when you have to, and that's what we're doing. And so I'm glad that this bill is moving, and I hope they'll move it quickly and get this thing through because it just makes too much sense, and it also is necessary. Apparently, if a Supreme Court justice refuses to define what a woman is, well, that alone should give you pause, and tell you that you need to start taking action at the state level. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Gonna switch gears in the Triple Dipper, talk about Space Command, abortion, generals, and politics. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative. Just plain right. Making it cool to be a conservative. Hey, I do have a piece of breaking news. Story just came out moments ago, really, on 1819 News, I believe. Yeah. Democratic State Representative Fred Plump Jr. of Jefferson County is charged with siphoning money from a Jefferson County Public Works Fund and delivering kickbacks to assistants, and he will be resigning from the Alabama State House. So that's just happened, all right? So here's the thing. I'll go ahead and paraphrase it for you. The story explains what I know to be true, that in a lot of districts, there are funds that are put into what's known as a trust or a community development type fund. And legislators are allowed to help small groups like, Little League teams and, the 501c3 that does the food bank and, and sometimes I used to see it used to aggravate the crap out of me. I used to always tell people, these are your tax dollars at work, and the legislator cannot have direct impact on it or is not supposed to. They have to appoint somebody to be their spokesperson to the board that makes the decisions. So I had a guy that would handle the applications, and he would, $500 to the Little League team for new uniforms and $1,000 to the cheerleaders from this school so they can go, to cheer camp and then, whatever. And it was stuff like that. Well, apparently this Fred Plump, State Representative Fred Plump, and I don't know him, so I'm not sure how long he's been in office, but which is interesting. He's a Democrat from Fairfield, and he apparently abused that Jefferson County Community Service Fund by making sure that a large amount of money went to a Little League Baseball association, of which he sat on the board, and then directed a lot of the money in the form of kickbacks that came into that organization to go to benefit him and his assistant. Says as an elected representative, Plump would have had somewhere around $500,000 that he could direct. It doesn't say he took that much, it's just direct. But the DOJ has now accused Plump of directing nearly 80% of that to the Piper Davis Youth Baseball League, which he served as the executive director for, and in turn gave around $200,000 in kickbacks to his assistant. What the heck, man? I mean, how did they just find this? I mean, at some point you got to look and go, are the kids wearing new uniforms this year? Because they sure got a lot of money. And apparently no. The answer was they were not. Plump pleaded guilty on Tuesday, that's today, and agreed to resign from office and pay at least $200,000 in restitution. Each of his charges carries a potential maximum penalty of 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. So I'm just telling you, that's just awful. And it's just... Anyway, there you go. Breaking news. Democratic State Representative, Democrat from Fairfield, Fred Plump Jr., charged with siphoning money from a Jefferson County Public Works Fund and delivering kickbacks. So, wow. Right there. I got a few text messages. I'll do those before we get to the top of the hour. I'll hold off on starting this next dipper. This next dipper is going to be a good one, by the way. I mean, not that there are any of them that aren't good. You hear what I'm saying? Boomer's is laughing at me. They're all good, Boomer. You know they're all good.
They're all good.
They're all good. Every one of them. But this one, I like this one. I mean, just the title alone, Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. What a heck of a, can I make an acronym out of that? That would be SCAGPAP or something. SCAGPO. SCAGPO. We're going to talk a little SCAGPO. Space Command. Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. Daryl from Huntsville. Daryl from Huntsville was texting a friend and realized he was texting the show. It's all right, Daryl. We won't read it out. Bill from Hartselle says maybe we should focus on recruiting of corporations to come to Alabama like Airbus or Mercedes. Okay. Alan from Arab says, Phil, there you go, trying to make sense. I know. What was I thinking? Marie from Huntsville says, maybe somebody ought to ask the chairman of the NAACP if he needs a U-Haul to move since Florida is such a terrible place. That's true. And by the way, there was another, and I'm trying to think who it was. I saw the storyline. I forgot to grab it. That said that another activist who followed up and chirped in on that whole thing about Florida being racist, she made her comments right after she got back from vacation in Florida. I kid you not. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, my gosh. Well, listen, we got a lot more yet to come for a third hour here on the show. So you all stay tuned. I'm telling you, this Space Command thing, this is just becoming so glaringly obvious. And any of you out there who think that Tommy Tuberville didn't earn his title Riverboat Gambler, I'm telling you, he is holding their feet to the fire right now, and I'm glad of it. And he's got support. There are people that are going, "Hey, you're hurting things," and I had him on Twitter the other day, a guy I grew up with back in the day, saying, "Phil, they're hurting national security," and I said, "No, they're not," and I'll explain all that in a minute. Because the very idea that because a general couldn't get promoted, that our national security is now at risk, not really. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. And I'll explain why in a minute. And then the whole idea, too, that abortion, because the Supreme Court said we can have a state law, that now that means that we shouldn't get a major military command because we actually have a state law that we're allowed to have according to the Supreme Court. This is politics, y'all. Politics to the nth degree. Politics ugly, nasty, dirty, and right there in front of us. You guys stay tuned. We're going to be doing SCAGPO, Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. We'll be right back.
Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here, live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, man. We cover down on all the issues like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3. How did we get to hour number 3 already? My gosh. All right, so anyway, great show. Lots of stuff going through. And next thing on the Triple Dipper, what did we just nickname this a minute ago? What acronym? SCAGPO. SCAGPO. Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. Gonna talk about a little SCAGPO. So just to refresh your memory, Space Command has been slated for a move from Colorado Springs, where it was only temporarily housed. A study was done. Colorado Springs wound up as 4th in line. Huntsville won. Huntsville won over 2 years ago. Huntsville has been sitting here now waiting to see what's going to happen, because when Trump didn't win the election, everything Trump got rescinded, if you recall. And what we're looking for right now is to find out whether or not Space Command is going to move to Redstone Arsenal. Alabama is already a major military state. In the broad spectrum, I mean, you look at it, Maxwell Air Force Base, if you're not familiar, down in Montgomery, is the schoolhouse for officers and senior enlisted, even basic training for the Air Force. You got Fort Rucker is a schoolhouse for all of Army aviation. You've got Anniston Army Depot, one of the major depots for the repair and refurbishment of military vehicles. You've got Redstone Arsenal, the home of Army Material Command, the home of a major new FBI installation, which is like headquarters south for the FBI. And a ton of defense contracting in and around the area. And then on top of that, it's an installation with a lot more on it than just what I mentioned. So Redstone Arsenal is supposed to be the home of Space Command, except politics got involved. So to refresh your memory, NBC News broke the story just about 8 days ago, May 15th. Biden administration may halt the plans to move Space Command to Alabama over the state's abortion law, officials say. So yeah, some defense and congressional officials believe the White House is laying the groundwork, it says, to halt plans to move the U.S. Space Command's headquarters to Alabama because of concerns about the state's restrictive abortion law. According to 2 U.S. officials and 1 U.S. defense official, both all familiar with the discussions. The belief is, says 1 U.S. official, referring to the White House, that they are delaying any move because of the abortion issue. Another U.S. official, I don't know who these U.S. officials are, but they're remaining anonymous, says it's all about abortion politics. Well, so we've gone through 2 reviews since Biden was elected. And those 2 reviews, like I said, took place after Biden was elected. And they've decided now to go ahead and say, well, I mean, because it keeps coming back that Huntsville's the place. It keeps coming back that Huntsville's the best. Well, of course it is. Anyway, Biden administration officials now have signaled privately to Pentagon officials and lawmakers they're thinking about reversing this over concerns about quote-unquote operational disruptions that could, delay Spacecom's operational capabilities. Well, the only holdup now is in the Biden administration. You've had everything you need all this time. Administration officials said the push not to headquarters Spacecom in Huntsville has nothing to do with Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville blocking at least 234 of Biden's military nominations in protest against the Pentagon's abortion policy. All right, so what are we talking about here? First of all, Space Command. You'd think that would be a non-political thing. Hey, let's take a look at this. Where's it best suited? Well, the studies show Redstone Arsenal. Cool. Let's move it and get them operational. Roger that. Step out smartly. No. Colorado Springs, a bastion of liberal politics, is screaming right now because they think they're going to lose something that they want to try and keep, which they've never really had because it wasn't fully assigned there. It's only been temporarily housed. Nonetheless, Colorado Springs finished 4th on the list, but they're screaming. In the meantime, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled last year in the Dobbs decision, that Roe v. Wade is no longer the law of the land, and that the question of abortion is devolved to the states. You tracking? The question of abortion is a states' rights issue. That the 10th Amendment, which allows the states to govern themselves and to legislate accordingly, in accordance with the dictates of what is necessary for their own people, and oh, by the way, is not otherwise preempted by federal law, which the Supreme Court said in the Dobbs decision it is not, means states can pass their own laws on abortion. Alabama has. Alabama not only passed laws on abortion at the legislative, code level, it became a referendum a few years ago. It is now embedded in our state constitution by a vote of the people of the state, not just the legislature. It's like a double win. So we're a pro-life state. But now the Dobbs decision comes out. And now the Biden administration is freaking out because you know how much they love to kill babies. And so what do? They start making sure that military personnel know that we're going to wind up finding a way for you people in uniform to kill babies all you need. All right, we're going to do things like, give you additional medical leave if you have to travel to another state. And by the way, we may compensate you for traveling to that state. What are they doing? Well, what they're doing when they do that, the DOD is just stepping in the way of state law. So someone who is stationed at Redstone, or someone who is stationed at Anniston Depot or Maxwell or Fort Novacell, I'm sorry. It's always going to be Fort Rucker to me. But nonetheless, folks that are stationed at a military installation in Alabama are now in a state that doesn't have abortion readily available. And so what are they saying? The DOD is saying, well, you know what? Screw your state laws. We're going to make sure you have an abortion. And we're going to use federal military dollars to make sure you get it. Enter the riverboat gambler himself, Coach Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator for the state of Alabama, who says, well, by God, you're not. If you're going to start doing that, by the way, is it the Hatch Act? I think it's the Hatch Act. There has been a prohibition on the use of federal dollars to fund abortion from time immemorial. It has been there for decades. We do not allow federal funds to be used to finance abortion, and that's exactly what they're trying to do through the DOD. They're circumventing state law, and U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville said, stop what you're doing. Stop it. They didn't want to stop. So what do? So Senator Tuberville says, well, here's how I'm going to handle you. So if you're not familiar, the way that generals get promoted, generals and admirals, they are nominated for their position, and they have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Really? Yes. So our own Tommy Tuberville says, whoa. Here's the deal. I'm putting a hold on that. Does it mean they won't ever get promoted? No. What it means is it's going to go slower. Because a lot of times what they do is they get up there and they have a blanket list of these generals or these colonels being promoted to general, or these, 1-star is being promoted to 2-star, and they take them en masse and they pass them and they send them on their way because most people agree if you've earned the right to be a general officer and you've been nominated for it, you should be allowed to serve. Except Senator Tuberville is saying, hey, so the bottom line is here, DOD, if you're going to play that game, if you're going to screw with my state's laws, then what I'm going to do is say, you're going to take the slow road to your generals. Your admirals are going to have to wait a little longer. And now the freak out begins. Oh my God, he's sacrificing national security. No, he's not. Because here's the thing. And anybody who's been in the military knows this. When you get promoted, you're listed as promotable, and you can assume the role. Most roles can be assumed even before you take the rank. At the very least, though, an interim can still hold that role until you get the rank officially. What am I saying? Well, when I was a major and I got promoted to lieutenant colonel, or when I was a lieutenant colonel, I got promoted to full colonel. When I got my orders, it said that I was lieutenant colonel with a P next to my name. Lieutenant Colonel promotable Phil Williams. What that basically means is they recognize that I've already been selected. And then as soon as I got my federal recognition, it tacked on, they pinned it on to me and I was wearing it. But at the same time, everybody in the world knew that technically Lieutenant Colonel P was actually soon to be Colonel Williams. Well, the same is true of these flag officers. They're colonel promotable, which means you're going to be a general. Everybody respects that. You're a 1-star promotable, which means you're going to be a 2-star. Everybody respects that. Guess what? Some of them are already functioning in the roles, just waiting on the pin on. Others are waiting just a little bit longer than they would have while an interim is still holding the slot. And by the way, all the guns are still ready to fire, and all the planes still ready to fly, and all the ships are still ready to sail, and no one is crashing and burning because a general didn't get his star yet. Is that person's career slowed down? Potentially. Yes. But is it something that needs to happen because this is a principled stand? I would say yes. Let me grab a call real quick before I go to the break. Clarence from Huntsville. Hey, Clarence, how you doing today, buddy?
How you doing? Doing pretty good.
What you got?
I done figured out how to stop this DOD and the abortion stuff, what they're trying to do, and for every company out there.
Lay it on me.
Every red state that has somebody, if you have an abortion and you leave our state and you go to another state and have you an abortion, when you come back over, that is now considered to be a federal crime for murdering somebody over state lines. And when you come back, you should be arrested and prosecuted.
Well, there is that. I don't know if we'll ever get that far, brother, but I certainly see your point.
Yep. Hey, and as far as the heads of all these federal departments, I'm at the point where I don't want to see presidents. I don't want to see Congress voting on them and appointing anymore. How about let everybody that works within that organization be able to cast a ballot for who they want to be the head of that organization at that point?
Clarence, if you ruled the world, it'd be a whole lot calmer place, wouldn't it?
I'd let God rule the world and tell me what to do, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man. I'm up against the break. Clarence, you have a great day, buddy. All right, take us to the break, Boom. We'll come right back. But I'm going to tell you when we get back how if you want to support Tommy Tuberville's efforts right now, you can put your name on a list. And I'm just telling you, my friends at the Alabama Policy Institute are on it. All that to say, what Tuberville's doing is not in any way impacting national security. What it's doing is slowing down whether or not some generals get their star or some admirals get their flag quicker than they are going to while he takes a principled stand against abortion law in the DOD. Wow. How's all that play in? We'll talk about it more when we get back. Y'all stay tuned. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, let me tell you about the Elm Foundation, the Elm, E-L-M, the Elm Foundation. They are some of our advertisers. They're doing cool stuff, man. And by the way, they're going to be on the show with us very soon to sort of explain it in more detail. But the Elm Foundation, Elm stands for Expect Little Miracles. And the Elm Foundation is a 501c3 based out of Huntsville, just doing some cool stuff. And they are working with, folks who are on the street and down and out and need a hand up, but not a handout. It's not like throwing money out like the government does. This is a program that actually works with folks to help them restore their self-worth, to get their job skills and certifications in place, to become productive members of society. It works with them on a plan that has milestones. They have to keep up with the plan. They have accountability. And yeah, it's working. So the Elm Foundation, based out of Huntsville, you ought to check them out. Their website is elmhsv, as in Elm Huntsville, elmhsv.org. Check them out. See what you think. I think you'll like it. The Elm Foundation, elmhsv.org. And if you talk to them, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. All right, I am talk about prescient timing. There's your word for Scrabble, prescient. Prescient timing. And I was prognosticating apparently in advance, because story just broke on AL.com like very recently, like today. Headline: Air Force Secretary says politics and abortion are not factors in Space Command decision. Sure they're not. Ha ha! There's nothing going on, nothing to see here, nothing up my sleeve, said Bullwinkle to Rocky. Does anybody know what I just said?
Bullwinkle to Rocky? Oh, yeah.
Okay. It just came out of my mouth, and it's like as soon as I said it, I thought that's one of the. I may have left some people behind, but
some people maybe.
I guarantee you, my audience is like, of course we know what Bullwinkle and Rocky is, and Natasha and Boris and all of them. Anyway, Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall said Monday that state laws or political squabbles about abortion will have no impact on the decision about where Space Command headquarters will be located. Well, I hope he's a straight shooter. All I know is he was appointed by Biden. The decision criteria, he says, for Space Command have not fundamentally changed. There is nothing in that decision criteria about state laws that might be about abortion or gay rights. That is not a part of the decision criteria. Well, he has to say that, by the way, because if he says anything else, it becomes a legal matter. Alabama lawmakers, it says in the article, have continued to tout the move of Space Command to Huntsville despite an NBC report last week that President Joe Biden's administration is looking to keep the command at Peterson Space Force Base, in Colorado, due to concerns about the southern state's restrictive abortion law. And he goes on to talk about Redstone and why it's necessary, and how Governor Ivey recently also made a statement saying Alabama is the only choice for Space Command headquarters. No ifs, ands, or buts. The Pentagon knows it. The White House knows it. And I'll keep saying it, said the governor. And Alabama will keep proving it until the headquarters is officially in Huntsville. Great comment. Great comment by the governor. I'll call him good when I see him good, and that was good. So if you look at this, you have to say, wow, okay. So you got a situation where suddenly it's about national security. We got to have Space Command up and running. Well, General James Dickinson, the current commander of Space Command, told Congress in March of last year that they were on track to be fully operational within 3 years, wherever the headquarters is located. Okay. But then just last month, like April of this year, Dickinson gave an accelerated timeline, saying at a space symposium that SpaceCom will be fully operational this year while still headquartered in Colorado Springs. Tell me, is it at all possible that what he's trying to do is follow directions from on high to get as much as you can in place right now so it looks harder to move you? That's what it feels like. All right, so as Tuberville makes this, and I told you earlier, by the way, this whole notion that suddenly the world comes to an end because the general didn't get his star as quickly, well, it's bunk. It's bunk because the military uses the promotable system. The military says once you've been selected for promotion, you're allowed to put the P by your name. So like if you're going to be promoted to major, you're a Captain P in the meantime. And people know it, and they acknowledge that. And if you're going to be a general, then you're a Colonel P until such time as you're confirmed by the U.S. Senate to be a general officer. It's just the way it works. In the meantime, are you allowed to function in the role? Sometimes. In the meantime, if you're not actually functioning in the role, Are they going to leave the role empty? Doubtful. There's going to be an interim there who knows the ropes, who's going to run things, and it's going to work just fine. And all the buses will still be running, and the trains are going to arrive on time. The guns will be ready to shoot. The ships will be ready to sail. Listen, when we get back from this break, I got to tell you, if you want to support Senator Tuberville, our guy, if you want to support him as a conservative who is standing by his word right now, taking heat for it, I'm going to tell you how. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I love living here, Alabama. I'm talking about this show sends its signal way on down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, from Tuscaloosa all the way back on over to Gadsden, and even parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. So I'm on this topic about Senator Tuberville. So I called this whole section SCAGPO, stands for Space Command, Abortion, Generals, and Politics. Let me tell you, so I'll show you. One text came in, Mark from Owens Crossroads. Why isn't Katie Britt joining in with the Tuberville slow roll? For that matter, where are the other red state senators? I'm glad you asked that question, Mark from Owens Crossroads. I have an article in my hand from Daily Signal, dated just last Friday. Some Republican senators are expressing their support for Senator Tommy Tuberville's efforts to overturn the Pentagon's policy of subsidizing abortions by holding up promotions of high-ranking military officers. He goes on to say that basically that he's holding up over 200 promotions right now. I mean, but first of all, I'm sympathetic to the guy who didn't have anything to do with this, who's just waiting for the promotion that he's earned after 30 years in service. And you think, okay, I get it, dude. I'm sorry. Ma'am, I'm sorry. But you know what? It's the process. Well, the Daily Signal contacted every Senate Republican asking whether he or she supports the Alabama senator's efforts. Here's a few comments. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, totally opposes the DOD abortion policy and supports any effort to overturn it. Senator Cynthia Loomis and Mark Wayne Mullen, both from one from Wyoming, one from Oklahoma, they said they support Tuberville. Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, I support Senator Tuberville's principled stand. For decades, Democrats and Republicans joined together to forbid federal funds being used for abortion, and allowing it now for the military will be a disservice to all those who have a sincere religious objection. Senator Steve Daines from Montana, the Biden administration is radically pro-abortion, and I'm glad to see Senator Tuberville take a courageous stand against their illegal actions. And then, to answer Mark from Owens Crossroads directly, in a statement to Daily Signal, Tuberville's fellow Alabama Republican Senator Katie Britt weighed in, saying, "It's critical that we defend life at every turn. Instead of using those Department of Defense funds to best equip, resource, and train our warfighters to defend the nation, the Biden administration is using taxpayer dollars to fight a culture war to advance its own left-wing political agenda. Not only is this another example of far-left Democrats attempting to chip away at the long-standing Hyde Amendment," that's what it was, the Hyde Amendment, not the Hatch Act, the Hyde Amendment, "it's clear abuse of military funding and an affront to the military's nonpartisan mission." What she's saying is she supports Tuberville. That being said, there were a bunch of others. I didn't even get to like Roger Wicker of Mississippi, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. They've got some concerns. But then you got Mitch McConnell, who's opposed. But for the bulk of them, there's a lot of Senate Republicans who are like, do it, coach. J.D. Vance of Ohio, John Cornyn of Texas, Deb Fisher of Nebraska, Mike Lee of Utah, Ted Budd, North Carolina, Marco Rubio and Rick Scott of Florida, Roger Marshall of Kansas, Joni Ernst of Iowa, Todd Young of Indiana, and John Thune and Mike Rounds, both of South Dakota, all support Tuberville. So he's got great support. Great support. And to include from our own U.S. delegation here in Alabama. Here's the bottom line. If you want to support it too, let me just tell you what you can do. So Boomer, tell them about it, Boom. Where you got it?
So we actually got the link up on our website at the very top on the right side of the website. You're going to see it just state right there where it says Join API in the support of Senator Tuberville's stance against taxpayers-supported abortion.
So you click on that thing right there at the top of our page. It goes to the Alabama Policy Institute.
Yes, that's correct.
And API has set up a thing where you can enter your name, your email address, and it will send a message that you are in support of Senator Tuberville's stance. So yeah, good job, Boom. So you just put that during the break.
Yep, it's up and ready to go.
You the man. All right, so yeah, if you want to tell Tuberville that you support what he's doing, then go to that link at the top of our page. Go to rightsideradio.org, and you'll see it right there at the top right, support Tuberville. Click on it and send your information in. You'll be one of the many joining, because this article points out that not only all these Republican senators, it says in addition to senator support, more than 3,000 veterans and active duty members of the U.S. Armed Forces expressed their support for Tuberville and called on the Pentagon to rescind its abortion policies. So I'm just telling you, they may say that this is nonpartisan, non-political, but I'm telling you, you can look at it right now and tell what's going on. It's pure politics. It's pure politics. But the idea that in some way this has dismantled or degraded our national security is a red herring. Don't buy it for a second. If somebody tells you, yeah, but I mean, I don't think that Tuberville ought to be messing with the military like that. He's messing with the military that's messing with Alabama's abortion law. By the way, now here's what's happening. The Biden administration is very likely, according to one of the articles I have here in my hand, to be delaying until they find out what Tuberville is going to do because the article pointed out they don't want to make him matter. So at that point, what you've got is Tuberville now has them dancing to his tune. You go, coach. But what that means is this. They don't want to make him matter, so they're a little concerned about what's happening, which means he's got them on the ropes, which, oh, by the way, means they know if they don't put Space Command here, they've just really pissed him off. And so now he's fighting abortion, but now his abortion fight is stepping into the Space Command arena, and now they're being accused of using abortion as leverage on Space Command, and he's saying, you know what? Screw y'all. All your generals can just wait.
Go, coach.
Go, coach. I'm just saying.
Wow.
So, this is what happens when you elect somebody who's willing to take a stand. You know what? You don't see that very often.
No, not at all. I mean, I was a little just taken back when I first heard that Senator Tuberville was running.
Yeah.
I wasn't here at the time. I was back in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, he'll get elected. He's coach.
Well,
and then on top of it, wow, for the stances that he has made now, I'm blown away.
Yeah, it's really been something to watch. And so, by the way, we're working with his staff to get him on the show here very shortly. Waiting to hear back on when we can get him in. It may wind up being next week at this point with Memorial Day weekend ahead of us. But his staff's been great to give us access. We've had him on the show several times. So y'all are welcome to text in. Tell me how you feel. But I'll tell you, I got several folks that are texting in already. Jay from Hartselle just texted in and says, "Soldier's going to soldier no matter what's on their lapel. They can wait." There you go. Chip from Muscle Shoals says, "You realize what military academy located in Colorado Springs, as chance would happen, has asked Joe Biden to deliver their commencement speech?" Yes, I do. Michael, he's talking about the Air Force Academy. Michael from Madison says the narrator writing was always the best part. Oh, talking about, Rocky and Bullwinkle. I was like, what just happened?
I forgot about that.
I did, yeah.
I was like, wait.
Which, by the way, Badger from Athens just texted in and said, "Hey, Rock, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat." We need to get that soundbite. Just nothing up my sleeve. Gary from Decatur, even on that same thing, says that trick never worked. It never did.
You always thought so, but it never did.
It was legendary. It was right up there with Lucy's going to pull the football away, and Charlie Brown's going to fly in the air, and then the coyote's going to go off the cliff and land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or get hit by a rock or something. What else have I got here? Anita from South Huntsville. And last I checked, Senator served 6 years. That's a lot of slow-rolled promotions. I have a feeling that he's going to relinquish later. But right now, what he's doing is making a clear and unequivocal point. And maybe we can parlay that into Space Command. Who knows? Dwight from Decatur said, "I served as a first lieutenant in a captain spot, and then as a major in a lieutenant colonel spot, and the world did not end." I'm with you, man. I agree, Dwight. Thanks for your service, by the way. All right, boom. Take us to an early break. We'll take that right now. We'll go a tad earlier than usual. We'll come back from the break and just kind of wrap up the day. Looks like a double dipper day there, boom shakalaka, but that's the way it's going to have to be. Content was everything in those dippers. Could not limit the content, even right down to the point that we've got you a place where you can sign up to support Tuberville. All right, y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Hey, real quickly before we go to the phones, I got to tell you, you hear the advertisements playing, during the break. Do know this: Rightside Radio is actually a separate business, and we're a standalone entity. We're actually a 501c3, to be honest, but we are a standalone entity. All the content you hear being played on the radio stations you listen to us on, they don't own it. We do. But we have to support ourselves as a standalone business. And so one of the ways we do that is by advertising sales. If you're listening to this show and you think, man, the things they're saying, that's what I believe. That's what I stand for. That's what our company stands for. And you want to advertise with Rightside Radio, we'd love to have you. You can't call the station to make that happen. You got to contact us direct. So you go to rightsideradio.org, and there's a place on there that says advertising. Click on it. Send us a message. We will be back in touch like ASAP. So, if you'd love to be a part of the Right Side team, we'd love to talk to you about being a part of the Right Side team. So check it out, rightsideradio.org. Click on advertising. Send us a link or a comment. We will get back in touch, and we appreciate it. All right. It's a double dipper day, bro. A double dipper day.
Oh, yes.
But it was they were big fat dippers.
They were big fat dippers.
Big fat dippers. Line one, Jeff from Indiana is on the line. Jeff Rowe, how you doing, buddy?
You're just the Big Dipper, Phil.
I'm a big old dipper, man.
That's right. Hey, with the Biden and everything, and talking about the military, who would want to sign up and be part of the reason why he's doing all this? Come in if you're trans and all this other stuff and everything is because he, a conservative. Why would you want to make Joe Biden your commander in chief? I have no reason. He doesn't support the military. He lets you go over there and get killed for political reasons, and who wants to sign up in that world? Well,
I hear you. I served through multiple administrations. I didn't agree with them. I was in there, for the tail end of Reagan, and I also served through Obama. And it's just it can be maddening. But in the military, you're supposed to be above politics and there to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Politics does get in play, and they've put more and more on the military with, woke policies and, writing your evaluation reports with, special comments about, did you abide by woke policies? But it's still an honorable profession, and I'm still a big fan of the military. I'm just not a big fan of the leadership, especially at the civilian level.
Yeah, and well, it's getting to be into the military level too, and everything, because he's putting all these woke generals and stuff in there, and it runs down from the top, and we're going to have next president's going to have a clearinghouse. Well, I think they need to just.
I agree.
Get rid of some generals.
Yeah,
they're going to have to become the commander in chief and say, Sire, it's time for you to retire. Bye bye.
Well, I agree, and the one that's going to be have to watch is there's talk that the an Air Force general whose name escapes me is looking at being the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and that he was very outspoken during the Black Lives Matter riots and basically screaming racism. And now he's looking at being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Air Force general, I believe.
Wow.
But
we'll
see how that
exactly who
goes.
we need in there, isn't it? Yeah,
well,
that's exactly who we need in there.
That's what though?
Who's basically biased.
But right now, if he's nominated, he hasn't been nominated yet, I don't think. But if he's been nominated anytime soon, Tuberville's holding things up. So that confirmation won't happen anytime soon.
Well, thank God for Tuberville, and our Indiana guys are right there with him. So.
All right, hey Jeff Rowe, thanks, man. You have a great day. It sounds like you're already at the house. Are you already through driving for the day?
No, I got a shot in my knee today, and the report back, it's doing great right now, so I can actually walk again.
Well, that's good. Outstanding. It's it's hard getting old and having all these store-bought parts put in us, but anyway, glad you're doing well.
Yeah, getting old is your golden years is just the gold that's going out, I think. There's nothing golden about it.
all I know is getting old ain't for young people, is it?
You got that right.
All right, brother. You take care. We'll talk to you soon. On the text line, John from Lexington, South Carolina says, I'm jealous you have the coach. I got Lindsey Graham. And then John from Huntsville says, Phil, after adding some well-earned extra credit points to your final grade, you get an A+. Boomer also gets an A+, but he did not earn any extra credit points today. In other words,
I love how he just keeps up with everything.
I know. In other words, yours was an organic A+. I had to have extra credit to get the A+.
Yes.
That means you technically win.
All righty.
Hey, we got time for that sound clip?
We got time.
All right. So listen, it's the afternoon drive. Let me lighten things up for a minute as we talk about things like Space Command, abortion, generals, politics, race baiters, and charlatans, and all of it. How about this? We had a little brief moment of comedy yesterday that was totally off topic, and it got rave reviews. And I'm thinking some of y'all are in the traffic right now. I mean, you're headed home. You can smell the barn. You know you're close, but you just need a moment to maybe laugh or smile. So a guy named Louis Ramey had a little piece he did that just makes you want to yell America when you hear it. So, Boomer, just play it.
The United States of America, most powerful country on this planet. And it's not because we have more money or we're better looking. No. It's because we have something in this country they don't have in other countries. That's right. I'm talking about rednecks. Good old boys with an arsenal in their basement that have been waiting for just such an occasion since 1775. Oh, believe me, foreign troops land in the South, there'll be a line of pickup trucks and NASCARs heading down I-95. Marines will show up 3 hours later, nothing but beer cans and shotgun shells. What the hell happened here? War's over, baby!
Oh, I like that.
Ain't nobody going to invade the South.
Nope.
You know what? If you're going to start the invasion, you might want to start somewhere like Maine.
Somewhere way up
Come
there.
down through Canada. Because you don't want to impose your will on because a country boy can't survive. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
And there's a war's over, baby. Beer cans and shotgun shells. That's awesome. All right. Listen, I'll tell you, we may have it. We may have our problems, but I wouldn't live anywhere else, man. I'm just telling you.
Absolutely not.
And I have lived elsewhere. You know, I have spent time in other places.
We love it here.
We do love it here. I mean, I lived in California, and I know that California is still one of our biggest podcast audiences. Thank you, California. We love you out there on the left coast. Y'all hold the line. We're coming. We're coming. Beer cans and shotgun shells. But what I'm saying is this: we got the warts and blemishes, that go right along with other things that we get aggravated with. You know, we got all the stuff. But in my opinion, and I mean this with all sincerity, no state has come further than Alabama. The place that was the seat of the Confederacy became the seat and the true, crucible of the civil rights movement. The state that, had the race riots in the street also had the march from Selma to Montgomery. And the state that at some point in the past was an agricultural base, still is, and added an industrial base to it like none other. And Birmingham became the magic city as it grew exponentially with the steel industry making it the Pittsburgh of the South. And then you look around the state and you go, man. And then Huntsville became the space capital of the United States and put people on the moon. And the warm water port we have down in Mobile and the fertile plains we have in the middle and the white sandy beaches and the mountains in the north. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't live anywhere else. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Love it here. All right, folks. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all have an amazing night. Boomer and I back here tomorrow, too. We will see you then.